And a nice follow by LeBron James, who's now got 10 points.
And Chris Paul is down in pain.
Oh, boy. Holding his right shoulder by his neck.
All right, man. This is a video that I didn't see myself making at all. I don't even want to say I didn't want to make because I don't want to make light of the situation. But it happened, man, and it's real, so I have to talk about it. Now, really quickly, if you guys are new, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have videos typically like every day or every other day. Also, go follow my Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter for these playoffs. A lot of you guys are getting mad about my opinions, but I'm going to let y'all know how I feel about everything. I don't care if it's your team or not, so go over there and follow me. Chris Paul, once again, got hurt in the playoffs. 1 quarter in, you had the Lakers on their heels. I mean, you had all the momentum. D-Book is ready, like he playoff ready. And Chris Paul got hurt, and yeah, they won, but the momentum still feels like it's on the Lakers side because Chris Paul's status is really a question mark. I know for a fact if Chris Paul is hurt and he can't be Chris Paul, full Chris Paul 100%, bro, the Lakers are going to exploit that as they should. You even seen yesterday just a little bit of it. Devin Booker getting more double teams. Chris Paul not even able to hit a signature pull-up shot off of screens. And we know that's what he does. Like, he's throwing it up. He hit that one against Kuzma, but he shot that like a 10-year-old, bro. He can't even shoot his regular pull-up money shot. That's how I know he's not right. And the whole question mark of, is Chris Paul okay? What's Chris Paul's status? What's Chris Paul's health like going into game 2, game 3, game 7, etc.? This has followed him, unfortunately, his entire career. And the crazy part is, sometimes it hasn't even just been him. It's just been injuries, period, literally following this man. Around 2006 to about 2008, after Tyson Chandler was really looking like a bust his first 4 or 5 years in Chicago, you compare his numbers to who they say is the bust, Kwame Brown. Kwame, don't come for me, bro. I don't want no smoke. I don't want none of that mama's chicken, whatever you be saying. If you compare those numbers, they were very comparable. But when he paired up with Chris Paul, and we know Chris Paul has a history, and to be honest, this to me is where it started. He has a history of enhancing his big man. Soon as he went there, his numbers kind of went up, and you can see they had some real rapport. In 2009, after just having 2 great seasons with Chris Paul, Tyson Chandler had a serious toe injury, and he missed 37 games and 15 out of his last 16 going into the playoffs. This was obviously a significant loss, losing your rim protector, especially in that era against Prime Melo, Chauncey Billups, Kenyon Martin, and they ultimately lost in 5 games. Not Chris Paul directly getting injured, but an injury hurting Chris Paul's career. Then you fast forward to 2013 when he played for the Clippers. They just set a franchise record with 56 wins. Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, they were catching lobs. DeAndre Jordan, Lob City. It seemed like they had a legitimate chance for at least a Western Conference Finals. But in the first round, Game 5 against Memphis, a team they just went 7 with the year prior and actually beat, Blake Griffin hurt his ankle, never was the same, and you can just look at it, Game 5 and Game 6, Blake played like ass, and again, Chris Paul, an injury, not really him, but it hurt his career. Then you go to 2015, Chris Paul literally has the biggest win of his entire career. Historically speaking, San Antonio beat everybody. Like, they literally beat and dominated damn near everybody in the West, at least at some point in time. If you go back to his Hornet days, he lost to them there. His first year with the Clippers, he lost with them there. He got swept. So beating the San Antonio Spurs in 7, the defending champions, that was a big ass win. But unfortunately, in that win, just as Chris Paul's career would have it, he injured his hamstring. And what did that do? This forced him to miss the first 2 games of the next series against Houston. Houston stole one of those games in the first 2. The Clippers lost a 3-1 lead. The Clippers blew it. The Clippers ultimately missed the chance to go to their first Western Conference Finals. But who knows, if Chris Paul never missed those first 2 games where they ultimately lost Game 2, that might have been a sweep. It might not even have gotten there. Then the following year, the Clippers are up 2-1 against Portland, a young Dame and CJ, and Chris Paul breaks his hand basically and misses the rest of that series, and they never win a game again. Then in 2017, and I didn't even realize it was this deep until I really looked into it, they're playing against Utah, a team they should have beat. They were way more talented, way more experienced. Blake Griffin has a foot injury. They ultimately go 7 games, and they missed another opportunity. So at this point, when this kept happening, and I remember I was like a big Clippers supporter, like my high school days, watching Lob City and all that, I was happy to watch Chris Paul finally leave the Clippers, because I was like, man, the Clippers, they cursed, they always have injuries. It's the Clippers, it's not Chris Paul. Then he goes to Houston, and one thing about Chris Paul, you always feel his impact. He always makes these teams better, as he did there. They won 65 games, a franchise record. James Harden wins the MVP. James Harden crosses up Wesley Johnson, spins the ball, looks at him. I mean, it was a magical ass season. Then they meet Golden State in the Western Conference Finals, a team nobody even thought anybody had a chance with, but they did. Once again, Chris Paul is having, to me, probably the best game of his career. Game 5, going back and forth with Stephen Curry, a player you're always compared to, a player that's winning championships. You're not. You're going back and forth with him. You're shimmying. You're hitting big shots. You win the game, but you get injured and ultimately miss Game 6 and Game 7. And what did that do? That cost him a chance to the NBA Finals. Then the following year, and I don't really blame Chris Paul too much for this, but I do feel like this matters. Chris Paul missed like a solid month, and while he missed that month, James Harden went off. It was almost like James Harden was trying to prove a point that he didn't need Chris Paul. He was scoring all these points, having these crazy records, like doing all this crazy stuff. And I feel like when Chris Paul came back, their chemistry was never the same. You can even look at Chris Paul's numbers and his usage rate, and then compare it to James Harden's numbers and his usage rate, and then compare it to the year before, and you can just tell, I mean, it was something off between those two. Look at what James Harden did in the month that Chris Paul missed. When Chris Paul came back, bro, James Harden wasn't toning it down. Like, he wasn't going to scale back and all that just because he came back, so that messed everything up. James Harden, post Chris Paul's injury, was shooting like 27 shots a night, while Chris Paul was shooting like 12. Like, bro, that wasn't even fair. Like, I see why Chris Paul got mad, but once again, I feel like his injury was probably the root of all those problems. And now this year, I don't know if Chris Paul is going to be hurt. I don't know if he's going to be playing like this for the rest of the series. But if he's playing hobbled and playing injured, and the Lakers can exploit that, they don't really have a chance. Yeah, last year Oklahoma City actually made the playoffs. Chris Paul last, he didn't get hurt and all that. But last year it was no travel. Last year it was no crowd. Last year it was a 4-month break. That's a whole offseason. When the season intensifies and you have to play a full season, I just don't know if Chris Paul's body is built for that. I hope he can come back and at least be 75-80% of himself, bro. Like, I hope at least. But unfortunately, what I just said, that's been his whole career. I hope Chris Paul can be back for Game 5. I hope Chris Paul can start. I hope he's okay. What's his status? This has been Chris Paul's career. And injury guys, they just haven't blessed him, man. If you guys like this video, like I said, daily videos are back. The playoffs are here, man. All 8 games were absolutely amazing. Trae Young, Devin Booker, all these players having their playoff debut, and it didn't even, like, it didn't faze him at all. Even when Chris Paul got hurt, D-Book was still balling, man. I love that dude, man. Like I said, man, follow my Twitter, follow my social media sites, turn on notifications, do all that great stuff, guys. And until next time, as always, stay tuned.